He thought his wife died 6 years ago. Then a midnight email led him into a dark alley and 3 terrified girls with his wife's eyes. What he discovered shattered grief, exposed a cruel lie, and forced a billionaire to choose between walking away or becoming the father time stole from. Rowan Hale had learned to ignore most things that arrived after midnight. Spam, threats, desperate pitches wrapped in false urgency. But the email that glowed on his screen at 11:47 p.m. felt different. Short, unpolished, and heavy with something that clawed at his chest. If you still care about children, come alone. Rivergate Alley, midnight, no signature, no attachments, just those 11 words. Rowan leaned back in his chair, the Chicago skyline reflected in the glass wall behind him. 41 years old. Founder of Hale Meridian Systems. A man whose calendar was guarded by assistants and security protocols. A man who did not wander into alleys. And yet, the word children lingered. It echoed against a part of him he rarely touched, the hollow space left behind 6 years ago when Alara died. Or so he had been told. He shut down his laptop and stood. His tailored coat felt heavier than usual as he slipped it on like it already knew where he was going. His driver texted moments later. "Want me to bring the car around, sir? Security detail?" Rowan hesitated, then typed back. "Number, I'll walk." The river wind cut through the streets as he left the building, sharp and unforgiving. Glass towers loomed above him, monuments to certainty and control, things he'd mastered everywhere, except his own life. As he walked, memories surfaced uninvited. Alara laughing in March sunlight. Alara humming while she painted. Alara saying, "Love always finds a way, Rowan, even when it gets lost." Rivergate Alley appeared ahead, narrow, damp, and forgotten. Neon flickered weakly at its mouth. Rowan slowed, every instinct warning him to turn back. Instead, he stepped inside. The city noise faded behind him. And somewhere in the darkness, something waited. Rowan Hale had built an empire from a borrowed laptop and a stubborn belief that systems could always be improved. By 35, he was a billionaire. By 40, he was alone. The alley smelled of wet brick and rusted metal. His footsteps echoed too loudly, each one reminding him how out of place he was. He adjusted the cuffs of his charcoal coat, out of habit armor learned in boardrooms and hostile negotiations. This place obeyed none of those rules. Forbes had once called him a visionary who saw 10 moves ahead. Wall Street praised his instincts, but no headline mentioned the nights he woke reaching for a woman who wasn't there, or the way silence filled his penthouse like an accusation. 6 years ago, a police officer had stood in that same penthouse and told him Alara Quinn Hale was gone. A car accident, fire, closed casket. Rowan had identified a ring, a necklace. He had signed papers with a hand that no longer felt connected to his body. Since then, he had perfected distraction, work, travel, philanthropy done from a distance. Donations wired, not delivered. Children's charities funded, never visited. Because children meant what might have been. The alley narrowed. Shadows shifted. Rowan's phone buzzed once, no message, just a signal drop. He stopped walking. "Hello?" He called, his voice steady despite the tension tightening his shoulders. Silence answered. Then footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Rowan's jaw clenched as a woman stepped into the weak spill of light. She was in her early 40s, dark hair pulled back too tightly, makeup smudged by exhaustion rather than tears. Her eyes were sharp, measuring him the way people measured exits. "Mr. Hale," she asked, her voice rough. "That depends," Rowan replied. "You sent the email." She nodded once. "Name's Marla Kincaid. I've got something you might want." Rowan frowned. "I don't do business in alleys." Marla's mouth twisted into something close to a smile. "You do tonight." Before Rowan could respond, movement stirred behind her. 3 small shapes stepped forward, and the world tilted. They were children. Girls. 3 of them. They stood shoulder to shoulder, hands linked like a fragile chain, as if separating might cause them to vanish. Their coats were thin, mismatched, and clearly borrowed from other lives. Sneakers too large. Sleeves pulled over red, chapped hands. But it was their eyes that stopped Rowan's breath. Green. Not just green, that green. Deep, luminous, unmistakable. The same color he saw every time he closed his eyes and remembered Alara. For a moment he forgot where he was. Forgot the alley. Forgot the woman in front of him. All he could see were three impossible reflections of a past he had buried. "These are my stepkids," Marla said flatly, waving a dismissive hand. "Triplets. 8 years old. Names are Wren, Sage, and Lark." The girls didn't speak. The smallest Lark watched Rowan with quiet intensity. The tallest Wren stood a fraction in front of the others, protective despite her size. Sage's fingers trembled where they laced with her sister's. "You brought me here for—" this, Rowan asked, his voice low. Marla shrugged. "I heard you donate to kids' causes. Figured you might be interested in a more direct arrangement." Rowan's stomach dropped. "What kind of arrangement?" Marla stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Their mother's gone. Their father's dead. I can't afford them. You've got money. I've got a problem." The words landed like broken glass. "You're talking about trading children," Rowan said. "I'm talking about survival," Marla snapped. "They get a better life. I get a way out." Behind her, the girls stood perfectly still, faces blank with a kind of practiced resignation that no child should ever learn. Rowan felt something crack open inside his chest. Every instinct screamed to call the police. To end this now. But he looked at the three small figures in the cold, and one thought drowned out all the others. If I walk away, they disappear. How much, he asked quietly. Marla smiled, and somewhere deep inside Rowan Hale, the past began clawing its way back into the present. Marla named the number like she was ordering coffee. Low, almost insulting. Rowan didn't react at first. His eyes stayed on the girls, not on her. The amount she asked for was less than what he had spent on dinner with investors the night before. Less than the watch wrapped around his wrist. Less than the flowers he used to buy Alara every Friday just because. "You expect me to believe this is about helping them?" Rowan asked quietly. Marla crossed her arms. "Believe whatever you want. I'm tired. I'm broke. And I'm done." The word "done" echoed in the alley. Rowan crouched slightly, bringing himself closer to the girl's height. Wren stiffened. Sage's grip tightened. Lark leaned subtly toward her sisters like a bird preparing to bolt. "What happens if I say no?" Rowan asked, still not looking at Marla. Marla's eyes flicked toward the street. "Then I keep walking. Someone else might be interested, or not." Rowan's jaw tightened. He imagined them drifting through the system forms, fluorescent lights, strangers who meant well but never stayed. He imagined their green eyes dimming a little more each year. "How do I know you won't come back?" he asked. Marla scoffed. "You won't see me again." Rowan reached into his coat and pulled out his wallet. Thick leather, heavy with cash he carried for emergencies. He had never imagined an emergency like this. "This is what I have on me," he said, pulling out a stack of bills. "But before you leave, I need names. Birth dates, whatever documents exist." Marla snatched the money, counting fast, fingers shaking now that it was real. Wren Elise, Sage Monroe, Lark Quinn, born March 15th. "I don't have everything." "We moved a lot," Mother's name, Rowan asked. Marla hesitated just long enough. "Alara," she said. "Alara Quinn." The alley seemed to tilt. Rowan felt the air leave his lungs. "That's all you get," Marla snapped, backing away. "You wanted to help. Congratulations." She turned and disappeared into the darkness, footsteps fading until there was nothing left but the wind. Rowan straightened slowly. 3 girls remained. No guardian, no protection. Only him. For several long seconds, no one moved. The city breathed around them, sirens in the distance, a train rattling somewhere beyond the river, but the alley felt suspended, as if time itself was holding its breath. Rowan knelt fully now, lowering himself until his knees pressed against the cold concrete. He removed his gloves and set them aside, exposing his hands to the winter air. "My name is Rowan," he said gently. "I know this is scary. I'm not here to hurt you." The girls stared at him, 3 different kinds of fear written across their faces. Wren's was sharp and defiant. Sage's was quiet and watchful. Lark's was wide, trembling, barely contained. "Are you like her?" Lark whispered, her voice so small it almost vanished. Rowan shook his head immediately. "No, I promise you I'm not." "You won't send us back?" Sage asked. "No," Rowan said, the words steady despite the storm inside him. "Not tonight, not tomorrow, not ever if I can help it." Wren swallowed hard. "You swear?" Rowan didn't hesitate. "I swear." The girls exchanged glances, silent communication built from shared survival. After a moment, Wren stepped forward and placed her hand in Rowan's. It was icy, too light, too small. Sage followed, then Lark gripping his fingers like a lifeline. Rowan stood slowly, careful not to pull them forward. "Let's get you somewhere warm." His car waited at the curb, black and understated. When he opened the door, the girls hesitated again, unused to being invited anywhere. "It's okay," Rowan said softly. "I'm right here." Inside the car, the heater hummed to life. The girls huddled together, coats pulled tight, eyes darting at every unfamiliar sound. Rowan gave them space, watching their reflections in the glass. Green eyes. Ilara's eyes. His chest tightened painfully. As the car pulled away from Rivergate Alley, Rowan looked back once. The alley was empty again, as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. Rowan's penthouse overlooked the Chicago River, a sweep of glass, steel, and carefully curated emptiness. It had always impressed visitors. The girls stepped inside and froze. The space was too big, too quiet, too clean. Lark clutched Sage's sleeve. "Is this all yours?" Rowan nodded. "For now." They stood near the door, unsure where to go, like guests who didn't know the rules. Rowan realized with a dull ache that nothing here felt like a home to children. "Are you hungry?" he asked. 3 heads nodded instantly, then stopped as if afraid the honesty might be punished. "I'll get food," Rowan said. "You can take a bath if you want. Warm water." He handed them oversized t-shirts from his closet, soft, clean, and absurdly long on them. He turned away politely as they shuffled into the guest bathroom. While the water ran, Rowan ordered food and sat on the edge of the couch, elbows on his knees, staring at his hands. "What are you doing? What if this goes wrong? What if you fail them too?" The bathroom door opened. The girls emerged with damp hair and flushed cheeks wrapped in borrowed softness. For the first time, they looked like children instead of survivors. The food arrived simple, warm, filling. They ate slowly, carefully, as if each bite might be taken away. Rowan watched his heart breaking in quiet pieces. "When is your birthday?" he asked softly. "March 15th, Wren answered. Rowan closed his eyes for a brief second. March. Always March. That night, Rowan set up the guest room with the biggest bed, extra blankets, and a small lamp left on low. "You can all sleep here," he said. "I'll be right outside." As they climbed under the covers, Lark looked at him one last time. "Will you still be here in the morning?" Rowan's voice didn't waver. Yes. And for the first time in 6 years, he meant it more than anything he had ever said. Rowan did not sleep. He sat on the couch outside the guest room, the city lights casting pale reflections across the floor. Every so often he checked the doorway, half expecting the girls to disappear, the way everything else in his life seemed to. From inside the room came the soft rhythm of breathing, 3 different tempos, slowly finding a shared calm. The sound grounded him. At some point near dawn, A small shadow appeared in the doorway. Lark. She stood there clutching the hem of her oversized t-shirt, eyes glassy with half-formed tears. "I had a bad dream," she whispered. Rowan stood instantly. "Do you want to talk about it?" She shook her head. "Do you want to sit here with me?" he offered. She nodded. Lark climbed onto the couch, careful not to touch him at first. Rowan draped a blanket over both of them, leaving space, letting her choose the distance. After a minute, she leaned into his side light as a breath. "People leave," she murmured. Rowan swallowed. "Some do," he said honestly, "but not everyone." "Are you going to leave?" "No," Rowan said again. "I'm staying." By morning, Wren and Sage joined them, sleepy and confused, but calmer when they saw Lark safe. Rowan made breakfast, burnt toast, uneven eggs. The girls ate anyway, polite and grateful. "Today," Rowan said carefully, "we're going to talk to some people whose job is to help kids. Nice people. They'll make sure everything is done the right way." Wren's shoulders tensed. "Like taking us away," Rowan knelt so they could see his face clearly. "Like making sure no one ever can." They studied him, searching for lies. They found none. Asha Moreno arrived just before noon. She didn't wear a suit. She wore soft colors and a calm smile, and she spoke to the girls before she spoke to Rowan. "Hi," she said gently, crouching down. "I'm Asha. I help families figure things out." She asked permission before every question. She listened more than she spoke. Rowan watched from a respectful distance as the girls slowly opened up. "Do you remember your mom?" Asha asked. Sage nodded first. She sang. "What kind of songs?" "Soft ones," Lark said. "Like the wind was listening." Wren added quietly. "She called us her little birds." Rowan's chest tightened painfully. "Do you remember where you lived before?" Asha asked. The girls exchanged glances. "Lots of places," Wren said. "We moved when money ran out." Asha nodded. No judgment. No pressure. Later, when the girls were drawing at the table, Asha turned to Rowan. "They've been through instability," she said softly. "But they're bonded. That helps. And they trust you." Rowan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "What happens now? Now we do this right," Asha replied. "Legal protection, documentation, no rushing." That afternoon, Rowan made 2 more calls. His lawyer, Cal Donovan, didn't sugarcoat things. "You did the right thing bringing them to safety. Now we document everything." His investigator, Jin Park, was quieter. "Give me 3 days." 3 days felt like a lifetime. That night, Rowan sat at the kitchen table as the girls colored birds with green eyes. He couldn't stop staring at them. At the way Sage tilted her head like Alara used to. At the way Wren's laugh echoed something he'd lost. At the way Lark hummed without realizing it. Memory or coincidence? Rowan no longer knew which scared him more. 3 days passed in careful routines. School clothes were bought. A therapist was scheduled. Rowan learned how to braid hair badly and how to listen well. On the 4th morning, Jin Park arrived with a manila folder tucked under his arm. His expression was different. Heavier. "Rowan," he said quietly, "you should sit down." Rowan did. Jin opened the folder, spreading papers across the table. "Birth records exist," Jin began. "Incomplete. Moved through multiple counties. But there's a pattern." Rowan leaned forward. "Triplets," Jin continued. "Born March 15th, 8 years ago." Rowan's hands clenched. "The mother's name on record is Ilara Quinn Barrett." The room seemed to shrink. "Barrett. Ilara Quinn was my wife's name," Rowan said hoarsely, "before she married me." Jin nodded once. "I know." He slid another document forward. "There's more. The car accident 6 years ago, the one where your wife was declared dead." Rowan's pulse thundered in his ears. "The records don't line up," Jin said carefully. "Different hospital codes. Conflicting identifiers." Rowan looked up slowly. What are you saying? Jin met his eyes. I'm saying your wife may not have died in that crash. Silence swallowed the room. From down the hall, Rowan could hear the girls laughing at something small and unimportant. For the first time, fear gave way to something far worse. Rowan stared at the documents, as if they might rearrange themselves into something less impossible. This doesn't make sense, he said finally. I identified her. I signed the papers. Jin Park didn't flinch. You identified a ring, a necklace, not a face. Rowan's throat tightened. Jin continued carefully. The crash happened at night. 2 women were brought in. One had no ID, severe trauma. The hospitals split the intake because of overcrowding. Rowan leaned back, his pulse hammering. You're saying someone else was buried as my wife? Yes. The word landed with the weight of a gravestone. The unidentified woman passed away, Jin said. Your wife survived, but she had extensive injuries, and this part matters: retrograde amnesia. Rowan closed his eyes. No memory of her life before the crash, Jin added. No name, no husband, no address. The sounds of the apartment felt distant now. The hum of the refrigerator, the muffled laughter of the girls down the hall. She was pregnant, Jin said quietly. Rowan's eyes snapped open. 3 months along, according to ER estimates. Rowan gripped the edge of the table, nausea rolling through him. Ilara had been pregnant, and he had never known. What happened to her? Rowan asked, barely audible. Jin slid another page forward. She was transferred to a long-term care facility. That's where she met Gideon Barrett. Rowan's jaw clenched. He was a volunteer, Jin said. Visited patients, brought books, food, kindness, and Rowan demanded. And when she woke up without memories, Jin continued, he told her she was his wife, that her name was Ilara Barrett. The room felt too small to hold the truth. She had no reason not to believe him, Jin finished. Rowan bowed his head. For 6 years he had mourned a woman who had been alive, lost. Jin didn't rush the next part. Your wife gave birth to triplets, he said, in a state-run facility. No family listed, no support system. Rowan's chest ached so fiercely it felt physical. She named them, Jin continued. Wren, Sage, Lark. Rowan swallowed hard. Ilara had always loved birds. She lived with Barrett for several years, Jin said. Moved often, low income. Medical care was inconsistent. Why didn't anyone find her? Rowan whispered. Jin met his eyes. She didn't know she was missing. The answer hollowed him out. Barrett controlled the narrative, Jin said. He isolated her. Nothing violent in the records, just quiet manipulation. Rowan exhaled sharply. Anger surged hot and dangerous, but he forced it down. And then Rowan asked. 2 years ago, Jin said Ilara died from an untreated illness. It progressed because she delayed care. By the time she reached a clinic, it was too late. Rowan's vision blurred. She was buried in a county cemetery, Jin continued. Barrett died 6 months later in a workplace accident. Silence stretched between them. So Marla, Rowan said slowly, was his partner. Jin nodded. After Ilara's death. When money ran out, she tried to get rid of the children. Rowan pressed his fists to his eyes. Ilara was gone. Not lost. Gone. He had lost her twice. From the hallway came the sound of a lullaby, off-key, half-remembered. Rowan looked up. They sing that when they're scared, Jin said softly. Rowan's voice broke. She taught them. Rowan didn't sleep that night. He sat at the kitchen table as dawn crept over the river, the city washed in pale gray. The girls padded in one by one, drawn by his presence. Did we do something wrong? Wren asked. Rowan stood quickly. No. No, sweetheart. He knelt again, always kneeling now, and placed his hands over theirs. I'm waiting on one more test, he said gently. It's just to make sure everything is clear. What kind of test? Sage asked. A family test, Rowan replied. They accepted that without fear. The DNA results arrived 3 days later. Jin didn't speak when he handed over the envelope. Rowan opened it with hands that shook. Confirmed probability of paternity 99.999%. Rowan exhaled a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "They're mine," he whispered. Jin nodded. "Yes." Rowan covered his face, overwhelmed by grief and joy colliding violently in his chest. His daughters. 3 lives that carried his blood. Her eyes. Their future. "What happens now?" Rowan asked. "Now Jin said we protect them." That afternoon, Rowan's lawyer filed for emergency custody. Given the circumstances, abandonment, exploitation, risk, confirmed paternity, the judge granted it without hesitation. Rowan Hale was legally responsible for Ren, Sage, and Lark. He walked into the living room where the girls waited nervously. He knelt in front of them. "I have something important to tell you," he said, voice steady despite the tears. "Your mom's name was Alara Hale. She was my wife." 3 faces stared back at him, and that means Rowan continued, "I'm your father." The room fell silent. Then Lark whispered, "So, we belong." Rowan pulled them into his arms. "You're home." The truth did not arrive all at once. It settled slowly like dust after a collapse, coating everything Rowan touched. Alara was gone. Not missing. Not wandering somewhere beyond his reach. Gone. Rowan stood alone in the master bedroom he had never slept in since her death, staring out at the river as if it might carry an answer back to him. 6 years ago, he had buried a woman he loved. Now he was burying her again, this time with the full weight of understanding. She hadn't chosen to leave. She hadn't chosen another life. She had simply lost herself. The thought was unbearable. In the kitchen, he found the girls sitting at the table with Asha Moreno drawing birds again. The papers were filled with wings, some broken, some flying. Rowan watched from the doorway. 3 daughters he never knew existed. 3 lives shaped by absence and confusion. Dad. The word hit him softly, spoken by Sage as if she was testing whether it was allowed. Rowan turned. "Yes," she hesitated. "You look sad." He knelt beside her chair. "I am," he said honestly, "but I'm also very happy." "How can you be both?" Lark asked. Rowan smiled sadly. "Because loving someone doesn't stop hurting just because something good happens." That afternoon, Jin Park brought one last file. Alara's grave location. Rowan's fingers traced the printed address. A county cemetery. No flowers listed. No visitors. "I'll go," Rowan said quietly. "But not yet." Jin nodded, understanding. That night, Rowan sat on the edge of the girls' bed while they drifted to sleep. "I want you to know something," he said softly. "Your mother loved you more than anything. She just didn't get the chance to find her way back." Ren turned toward him. "Did she love you too?" Rowan swallowed. "With her whole heart." The girls fell asleep, holding hands. Rowan stayed until the room was dark. Telling them the full truth took time. Rowan didn't dump it all at once. He told it in pieces like stepping stones across deep water. One afternoon, they sat together on the couch wrapped in blankets. "Your mom was in an accident before you were born," Rowan began. "It hurt her body and her memory. So she forgot us." Ren asked quietly. "No," Rowan said gently. "She forgot herself." Sage frowned, "But she still loved us." "Yes," Rowan said without hesitation. "Love doesn't live in memory. It lives in the heart." They listened carefully, absorbing what they could. "Did she forget you too?" Lark asked. Rowan nodded. "She didn't know who I was, and I didn't know where she was." The room was silent. "Is that why she didn't come back?" Ren asked. "Yes." The answer hurt, but it was honest. That evening, Rowan showed them photos, Alara laughing in a park, paint on her hands, sunlight in her hair. "She liked to paint," Sage said softly. "She was very good," Rowan replied. The girls stared at the pictures, searching for themselves in her face. She has our eyes, Lark whispered. Rowan smiled. You have hers. Over the next weeks, routines formed. School mornings, therapy appointments, grocery shopping together. Rowan moved them into a house with a backyard, a place where children could run without echoes swallowing them whole. He learned how to pack lunches, attend meetings, listen more than speak. Slowly, the word dad became less fragile, more real. It happened one quiet night. The girls were supposed to be asleep, but Rowan heard footsteps padding down the hall. Wren stood there, arms wrapped around herself. Can I ask you something, she said. Always, Rowan replied. She climbed onto the couch beside him, staring at her hands. If Mom loved us, and you loved her? Wren hesitated. Why did bad things still happen? Rowan closed his eyes briefly. That's the hardest question there is, he said. Sage and Lark appeared in the doorway, drawn by the tension. Rowan motioned them over, and soon all three were pressed close. Bad things happen, Rowan said slowly. Not because love isn't strong enough, but because the world is messy and unfair. Did we do something wrong? Lark whispered. No, Rowan said immediately, his voice firm. Never. None of this was your fault. Wren's eyes filled with tears. What if you leave too? Rowan felt his chest tighten. He took their faces gently in his hands, one by one. I lost your mom because of an accident and a mistake, he said. I lost years I can never get back. But I am here now, and I am not leaving. Sage pressed her forehead against his arm. Promise. Rowan didn't smile. I promise, he said. The word carried weight. That night, Rowan sat alone after they fell asleep, staring at the quiet house. For the first time, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt full. And somewhere deep inside, beneath grief and regret, hope began to take root. Stability never arrived quietly. It announced itself with paperwork, court dates, whispered doubts, and the constant fear that something fragile could still shatter. Rowan learned this the morning Cal Donovan called him before sunrise. We have a problem, Cal said, skipping pleasantries. Rowan sat up instantly. Talk to me. Marla Kincaid filed a complaint, Cal continued. She's claiming you coerced her, that you paid her to take the girls. Rowan closed his eyes, anger flaring hot and immediate. That's a lie. I know, Cal said calmly. But lies still require answers. By noon, the house felt different. The girls sensed it before anyone explained. Wren hovered closer than usual. Sage went quiet. Lark followed Rowan from room to room like a shadow. Are we in trouble? Sage finally asked. Rowan knelt. No, adults are having a disagreement. That's all. But the fear was there, old, learned, dangerous. That afternoon, Asha Moreno arrived with files and quiet reassurance. This is why we documented everything, she said. You did exactly what the system asks for. Protection first, transparency second. Still, the waiting gnawed. Rowan replayed the alley again and again. Had he said the wrong thing, moved too fast, trusted too easily? At dinner, Lark barely touched her food. What if they make us go back? She whispered. Rowan set his fork down. That will not happen, he said firmly. No one is taking you away. But grown-ups always say that, Wren muttered. Rowan's voice softened. Then I'll show you. He spent the evening doing something he'd never done before. He wrote everything down, every detail, every receipt, every call, every moment from the alley to now. If the world wanted proof, he would give it truth line by line. That night, Rowan slept on the floor outside the girls' room just in case. The hearing wasn't dramatic. No raised voices, no slammed gavels, just fluorescent lights, a judge with tired eyes, and the quiet gravity of decisions that shaped lives. Rowan sat between Cal Donovan and Asha Moreno. Across the room, Marla Kincaid stared straight ahead, jaw clenched, eyes hollow. The girls were not present. That mattered. Cal spoke first, methodical and precise. He laid out the timeline, the abandonment risk, the immediate steps Rowan had taken to secure safety and involve licensed professionals. This wasn't a transaction, Cal said evenly. It was an emergency intervention. Marla's lawyer tried to frame desperation as misunderstanding, tried to blur lines. Then Asha stood. She spoke about the girls, not their trauma, not their pain, but their resilience, their bond, their need for consistency. These children are not objects to be reclaimed, Asha said calmly. They are people who finally feel safe. The judge asked Rowan to speak. Rowan stood, hands steady. I didn't go looking for children, he said. I went because someone used the word children like a warning. He didn't mention money. He didn't mention rage. He mentioned names. Wren, Sage, Lark. I failed once, Rowan continued, voice low. I lost my wife because the system made a mistake. I won't lose my daughters to fear and silence. The room was quiet for a long moment. Then the judge spoke. Emergency custody stands, she said. A restraining order is issued. Further investigation into Ms. Kincaid's actions will proceed separately. Rowan exhaled slowly. It wasn't the end, but it was enough. The house felt warmer after that. Not because anything physical had changed, but because the fear had loosened its grip. Rowan told the girls the truth that evening, sitting with them on the living room floor. No one is taking you away, he said. The judge agreed. Wren didn't celebrate. She just nodded like she'd been expecting a trick. Sage asked quietly, So, we're really staying? Yes, Rowan said. All of us. Lark burst into tears without warning, clinging to his shirt. Rowan held her until the shaking stopped. Life didn't suddenly become perfect. There were nightmares, missed homework, therapy days that ended in silence, moments when anger surfaced without warning. Rowan learned to stay anyway. He learned that being a father wasn't about fixing pain, it was about sitting beside it. One Saturday afternoon, he found the girls in the backyard building a crooked birdhouse. It's for Mom, Sage explained. Rowan swallowed. She would love that. They painted it green. That night, Rowan made a decision. He stepped back from daily operations at Hale Meridian Systems, promoted a team he trusted, created space where none had existed before. He also started the paperwork for something else, the Alara Hale Foundation. Its mission was simple: improve identification procedures for trauma patients, support families separated by medical error, protect vulnerable children before they vanished into paperwork. He didn't announce it publicly. Not yet. Some things deserved to be built quietly. That evening, as Rowan tucked the girls into bed, Wren hesitated. You're not leaving again tomorrow, are you? Rowan smiled softly. No meetings before school. I'll make pancakes. Wren studied him carefully. Then she said it. Good night, Dad. The word settled into Rowan's chest like a promise, and this time he knew how to keep it. Rowan waited nearly a year before taking them there. Not because he was afraid of the place, but because he was afraid of the moment. The cemetery lay just beyond the edge of the city, where concrete softened into grass and noise gave way to wind. It was late autumn when they finally went, the trees stripped bare branches like quiet witnesses against a pale sky. The girls walked close together, coats zipped to their chins. Is this where Mom is? Lark asked softly. Rowan nodded. Yes. Wren didn't speak. She carried the flowers herself, white lilies and small yellow daisies tied with a green ribbon Sage had chosen because green was Mom's color. They found the grave near the back. No visitors' marks, no worn grass. Just a simple headstone Rowan had replaced months earlier. Ilara Quinn Hale, beloved mother, love never forgot. Sage knelt first, brushing leaves away with careful hands. She was really here, Sage whispered. She's not just a story. Rowan felt his chest tighten. No, she was very real. Wren set the flowers down, jaw clenched. For a long moment, Rowan thought she might say nothing at all. Then the words came out sharp and sudden. "I was mad at her," Wren said, "for a long time." Rowan didn't interrupt. "I thought she left us." Wren continued, voice shaking now. "I thought she chose something else. Someone else." Lark's eyes filled with tears. Sage reached for her sister's hand. Rowan knelt beside them. "It's okay to feel that," he said gently. "Anger doesn't mean you didn't love her." Wren wiped her face roughly. "But she didn't choose us." Rowan took a breath. "She chose you every day," he said. "She just didn't know where she was anymore." Silence settled. A cold wind passed through the trees, lifting the ribbon on the flowers. Lark crouched down and placed her small palm against the stone. "I remember her humming," she said quietly, "when I couldn't sleep." Rowan's throat tightened. She hummed when she painted too. Sage tilted her head. "Did she ever talk about us?" Rowan smiled sadly. She talked about the future all the time. She wanted children who were kind, curious, brave. Wren let out a short, broken laugh. "That sounds like us. It does." Rowan agreed. They stood there for a long time. No rush, no speeches, just a family learning how to stand inside loss without being swallowed by it. Before they left, Rowan reached into his coat and pulled out a small wooden object. A bird, carved simple smooth from years of handling. "She made this," he said. "I kept it with me." He placed it gently at the base of the stone. "For you," he added. As they walked back to the car, Sage slipped her hand into Rowan's. "Dad," she said. "Yes, do you think she knows we found you?" Rowan looked back once more at the grave sunlight breaking briefly through the clouds. "I think," he said slowly, "she was waiting for that." That night, back at home, something shifted. The girls slept deeper. Wren didn't bolt awake from dreams. Sage drew pictures without tearing them up. Lark stopped asking, "Are you still here every morning?" Grief didn't disappear, but it changed shape. A few weeks later, Rowan stood in front of a small group for the first time. Not investors, not reporters, but doctors, advocates, and families. He spoke without notes. "My wife was lost, because a system failed to see her as a person," he said. "My daughters were lost because no one was looking closely enough." The Alara Hale Foundation launched quietly that day, funding identification reform, supporting children at risk of disappearing between forms and offices, training hospitals to treat memory loss with urgency, not dismissal. Rowan didn't put his name on the front. He put Alara's. At home, life went on. Homework battles, burnt pancakes, soccer practices, and art shows. One evening, months later, Rowan sat on the couch reading while the girls worked on a school project. "What are you making?" he asked. "A family tree," Wren replied. Rowan glanced over. There were branches everywhere. Ilara's name sat at the center, bold, unbroken. Below it, 3 names in green, and next to them 1 more. Dad. Rowan blinked hard and looked away before they could see. For the first time, the past didn't feel like an open wound. It felt like roots. And for the first time in his life, Rowan Hale understood something Alara had always known: love didn't end when people were lost. It waited, quietly, until someone found their way home. Time did not heal everything, but it taught them how to live with what remained. The years after the cemetery visit unfolded quietly, not in headlines or dramatic turns, but in ordinary moments that slowly stitched them together into something whole. Rowan learned that healing looked like routine, like waking up early to pack lunches, 3 different ones, because Wren hated tomatoes. Sage loved fruit cut just right, and Lark refused sandwiches unless they were cut into triangles, like sitting through school assemblies on folding chairs that pinched his back, like listening to therapists explain that progress was not a straight line. Some days Wren was fierce and loud, challenging rules just to see if they would hold. Some days Sage retreated into silence, drawing page after page of birds in flight. Some nights Lark climbed into Rowan's bed, without a word, curling close, as if the world might disappear if she let go. Rowan stayed. That was the difference. At Hale Meridian Systems, the shift was noticeable. Rowan no longer chased every expansion or meeting. He delegated. He trusted. He left the office at 5 more often than not. The board noticed. So what changed, one executive asked during a quarterly meeting. Rowan didn't hesitate. My priorities. He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. The Alara Hale Foundation grew carefully, intentionally. Rowan refused flashy launches, no billboards, no galas named after him. Instead, there were training programs for hospital staff on handling unidentified patients with memory loss. Grants for social workers tracking missing family connections. Emergency funds for children at risk of being lost between systems. Lives quietly redirected. Letters began arriving at the house. Some were handwritten, some barely legible. Because of you, my sister was identified. Because of your foundation, my son came home. Thank you for seeing us. Rowan read everyone. He kept them in a wooden box beside Alara's old paintbrushes. The girls grew. At 13, Wren joined the soccer team and argued passionately with referees who missed obvious calls. At 14, she joined the debate club, learning how to turn anger into words sharp enough to matter. Sage discovered painting, real painting, not just sketching. She spent hours mixing greens, trying to match a color that lived somewhere between memory and inheritance. Lark took longer to find her voice, but when she did, it came out in music. Piano first, then singing, soft at first, then stronger. Rowan attended everything, games, recitals, exhibitions. He clapped until his hands hurt. One evening when the girls were 16, Rowan found them in the living room surrounded by boxes. "What's all this?" he asked. Sage smiled. "We're organizing for what." Wren held up a flyer. "The foundation event." Rowan froze. "What event?" Lark grinned. "You can't stop it anymore." They had planned it themselves, a small community night. Stories, art, music, no speeches longer than 5 minutes. "You taught us that helping people isn't about being loud," Sage said. "It's about being real." Rowan sat down, heavily overwhelmed. The event was held in a converted warehouse near the river. No red carpet, no press wall, just people. A woman spoke about finding her brother after 20 years. A social worker shared a story of a child reunited with grandparents. Sage displayed her paintings, birds breaking free from tangled lines. Lark sang the lullaby Alara used to hum, her voice steady, filling the space. Wren stood beside Rowan, watching it all. "She'd be proud," Wren said quietly. Rowan nodded. "She already is." That night, long after everyone left, Rowan stood alone in the empty hall. He realized something then. The pain hadn't disappeared, but it no longer defined them. It had become part of a larger story, one that didn't end in loss, but in choice. The choice to stay. The choice to protect. The choice to love without guarantees. At home, Rowan found a note taped to his bedroom door. "Thank you for choosing us." W.S. and L. Rowan pressed his hand against the paper and closed his eyes. For years he had believed his life's greatest chapter had ended with Alara. He had been wrong. It had simply been waiting. And tomorrow, ordinary, imperfect, beautiful tomorrow, would come again. With breakfast, with arguments, with laughter echoing down the hall, with 3 daughters who no longer asked if he would stay. They already knew. The sun was setting when Rowan realized how much had changed. He stood on the back porch watching the sky melt into shades of gold and rose, the same colors Alara used to chase across her canvases. The backyard was loud with life, too loud for the man he used to be. Wren was arguing with the neighbor's son over a soccer call that had ended hours ago. Sage sat cross-legged on the grass sketchbook balanced on her knees, capturing the way the light caught the leaves. Lark leaned against the railing, humming softly to herself, fingers moving as if she were still at a piano. Ordinary. And yet nothing about it felt small. Rowan stepped down into the yard, and Wren immediately noticed. "Dad," she called. "You're on referee duty." Rowan smiled. "I refuse to officiate games that are already over. That's unfair," Wren said, grinning. "So is life," Rowan replied lightly. She laughed a real laugh, unguarded, and ran off. Rowan's chest tightened. There had been a time when laughter like that felt impossible. Later that evening, they gathered inside for dinner. The table was crowded with plates, notebooks, half-finished projects, and a sense of belonging that still sometimes caught Rowan off guard. So Sage said, glancing up from her food, the foundation called today. Rowan raised an eyebrow. "They did. They want to expand the hospital training program," she continued. 3 more states." "That's good news," Rowan said. Wren leaned back in her chair. "They also asked if you'd finally be willing to give a speech." Rowan groaned softly. "I knew there was a catch." Lark looked up serious. "You should." "Why?" Rowan asked. "Because people listen when you talk," she said simply. "And because Mom would want you to." The room went quiet, not heavy, not sad, just honest. Rowan nodded slowly. "All right," he said. "One speech." After dinner, Rowan pulled out a small box he'd been keeping on a high shelf. "I have something for you," he said. The girls exchanged curious looks as he opened it. Inside were 3 thin bracelets, simple silver chains, each with a tiny green stone. Sage's breath caught. "Is that?" Rowan nodded. "It's the same shade your mom used to paint over and over again. She called it the color of coming home." He handed one to each of them. Lark slipped hers on immediately. Wren stared at hers for a moment, before fastening it with hands that trembled just slightly. Sage held hers like it was fragile. "We wanted something that connects us," Rowan said. "Not because of loss, because of love." Wren cleared her throat. "Does this mean we're stuck with you forever?" Rowan smiled. "That's the idea." Later that night, Rowan stood alone in the living room. Lights dimmed the house quiet except for distant music drifting from Lark's room. He walked to the small memorial shelf near the window. A photo of Alara smiling in sunlight. A carved wooden bird. 3 framed drawings, one from each girl. Rowan touched the edge of the frame gently. "You'd love them," he whispered. "You'd love who they've become." The wind stirred the curtains slightly as if in answer. The next morning, Rowan stood on a stage for the first time without armor. No teleprompter, no notes, just him. He spoke about systems and failures, yes, but more than that, he spoke about people. About how easy it was for someone to disappear when no one was looking closely enough. About how love didn't erase pain, but it could outlast it. He didn't mention Marla. He didn't mention money. He mentioned 3 names: Wren, Sage, Lark. "My daughters taught me something," Rowan said, voice steady. "That being found isn't a moment. It's a decision. You decide to stay, every day." The applause wasn't thunderous. It was real. That night back at home, the girls sprawled across the couch, tired and content. "You did good," Wren said. Sage nodded. "Mom would have liked that part about staying." Lark smiled sleepily. "She hated speeches, though." Rowan laughed. "That tracks." As the house settled into quiet, Rowan tucked each of them in. At Lark's door, she stopped him. "Dad," she whispered. "Yes, if Mom could see us right now." "Do you think she'd be sad?" Rowan thought carefully. "No," he said. "I think she'd be at peace." Lark nodded, satisfied. Rowan stood in the hallway for a long moment after the lights went out. 6 years ago, he had believed his life ended in a hospital hallway. But standing there now, surrounded by the quiet evidence of love shoes, by the door drawings on the fridge, laughter lingering in the walls, he understood the truth. Life didn't end. It transformed. Love didn't disappear. It waited. And sometimes when the world was cruel and careless, love found a way back through broken systems, lost memories, and long, painful years. Rowan Hale turned off the last light and headed to bed. Tomorrow would come, with homework, with music, with debates and fun, and with 3 daughters knowing they are at home. And with love, the one thing that in the end always stayed. Did this story move you? Share your thoughts in the comments and rate this story from 1 to 10. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon so you don't miss other heartwarming stories. Click on the last screen to see the next emotional chapter waiting for you. See you in the next story.